Hi again, I'm back in yet another new location. Unfortunately, I have bad news. I'm about to read another chapter of this book and talk about it, so you will have to live through that, as will I. 5, 6, Jesus Christ, I'm like way into this chapter so far. So what's happened is, what's her name? Her name is Mrs. Lincoln. She's the one they refer to, or Anna refers to, as Mrs. Robinson. She just visited and she's like telling Christian about how she's being blackmailed, and then they have this whole conversation about like what we had in the past and blah blah blah, and it's over now and I don't know, but we're still friends. And I can't remember exactly how she fits into Christian's life, but it's kind of, I'm piecing it together from their conversation right now, and I think, if I remember correctly, she was the first person that Christian got into BDSM with when he was really young, and he was her sub before he kind of figured out that he'd rather be a dom full-time. And so Anna has interpreted that as like Mrs. Robinson like makes a habit of abusing young boys or whatever, which is, but I mean the actual conversation has just been kind of boring so far, so I'm just trying to get through it. Anyway, so now Mrs. Robinson is gone, and it's Anna and Christian having a conversation about like, I think we're about to get some more backstory on Mrs. Robinson and her relationship to Christian, because Anna's like, I want to know all about her, I just want to understand what she is to you, and whatever. Anna says, you don't love her. Christian says, a long time ago I thought I loved her. And Anna says, but you told me you didn't love her when we were in Georgia. I don't remember why they were in Georgia. Whatever. I don't care. When they were in Georgia, Christian told Anna that he never loved Mrs. Robinson. And then Christian's response to that is, I loved you then, Anastasia. You're the only person I'd fly 3,000 miles to see. And Anna thinks to herself, I don't understand. He still wanted me as a sub then. Which, my point and why I read that whole conversation is, wanting someone to be your sub and loving them are not even close to mutually exclusive. I feel like I've said this a million times before, and I'm probably gonna say it a million times more by the time I get to the end of this series. You can love someone and dominate them. Domination or submission can come out of love. It often does. It's a loving, caring thing, and the kink shame in this book and just the pervasive ideas that kink and love and romance are these two completely separate, opposite things. It's bullshit, and it's not true. The other thing I want to say about this conversation that just happened is that, like, both Mrs. Robinson and Anna like doting on Christian and like, oh, you've had such a traumatic past, I don't want this relationship to hurt you, you've been hurt enough, which, okay, fair. He had a pretty shit childhood. With all of this commentary, I am not trying to deny that Christian had a shitty childhood. Like, I don't want to downplay that. But the thing I'm trying to get at is that Christian is not the one who needs to be protected right now, because he is the abuser. And Anna is his victim. She is the one in need of protection, and the entire narrative so far is that Christian needs protection, and Christian needs coddling and whatever, and he's the one in danger of getting hurt, and it's not. Anna is the one being hurt, being abused, being in this unhealthy relationship. The suffering and the the pain of abuse victims so often gets downplayed or ignored, or the focus is on the abuser. And meanwhile, this other person is getting abused and nobody's focusing on it. And that's bullshit. That's my point. Okay, and another thing. Blah blah blah, Anna's internal monologue about, oh, Mrs. Robinson is, the words she uses is an unsavory character, and she preys on underage boys and robbed Christian of his teenage years and blah blah blah. And here's the thing, from what Christian is saying, being her sub was empowering for him. And like he says, she taught me a great deal. She taught me to believe in myself. Which, like, right on. Yeah, like, kink and BDSM can be really empowering. And first of all, like, being absolutely free to explore what you like, even if it's not something like socially acceptable, that can be really empowering, because it can teach you to be like, fuck it, I don't care what anyone else thinks. Like, if I get off from being beaten, I get off from being beaten. Great, let's do it. And also, like, being a sub involves, being on either side of the equation, a dom or a sub, involves a lot of trust. But since I'm not a dom, I can only really speak from a sub's perspective, but you really are, you're submitting to someone completely, or, as much as you're willing to. And it really, you have to trust that person to treat you the way you want and need to be treated. So I can absolutely see how that would help you get over a traumatic childhood and a toxic family environment. Maybe I'm forgetting something important. Maybe their relationship actually was unhealthy. I don't know. But from everything I've heard from Christian's perspective so far, it seems like their relationship wasn't that bad. Even if it was not completely healthy, it doesn't seem nearly as bad as Anna's making it out to be. So Christian got annoyed with their conversation and stormed off into his office to do work, and so Anna's now bored. She's in the library, which is where the pool table was from last chapter, and she finds the ruler that Christian hit her with the other night. She picks it up and looks at it and swats her palm with it, and she's like, why can't I take a little more pain for my man? Note to all new subs just getting into pain play, don't beat yourself up about, oh my god, there's no way to say this without making a pun, but seriously, don't beat yourself up about not being able to take as much pain as you may think you're supposed to, because that's not what pain play is about. It's not about being able to take a certain level of pain or being able to do certain things, be hit with certain instruments. That's not the point. For some people who are into pain play, it can be kind of a competition with themselves. Part of the enjoyment can be trying to pass their pain threshold, trying to be able to take more than they think they can, and that's great, that's fine. But if that's not what you like about it, then that's fine, that's not you. Pain play is, it's about pain, but it's about getting pleasure from the pain. So in whatever form that takes for you, it all comes back to sexuality, and likes and dislikes in bed are all so individual, and it's you can't hold yourself to someone else's standards, because that's stupid. That takes away the entire point of kink and playing around in bed, which is to enjoy it. Duh. just relax, just enjoy it, just enjoy whatever it is you enjoy. And you know, as you get more into it, you might find that you can take more pain than you could when you were first starting out. I know that happened with me. Enjoy the process, is what I'm saying. Don't stress about it. It's supposed to be fun. If it's not fun for you, if it's, you know, you're stressing out and you're beating yourself up about it, it's not your job. It's your dom's job to beat you up, is what I'm saying. And it's your job to enjoy it. Oh man, isn't there a scene in one of the Twilight books where Bella like wakes up in the middle of the night and hears Edward playing piano, and he's like, that's when he's written her song or whatever? I think I remember that, because if so, we just got to that scene in this book. So a thing I've noticed about E.L. James's writing style, it's very, very repetitive. There are so many sentences. It's this list of words saying the exact same thing over and over. And I'll admit, I do that too with my writing frequently in the first draft. And then I go through and edit it and take all that repetitive shit out. This series has been through not only that editing process, but a professional editor. How does this shit keep slipping through? Like, this is creative writing 101 stuff here. It's bad, it's annoying. He's using orgasm denial to punish her for fighting with him, for like arguing with him earlier. Don't do that. Again, it all comes down to consent and discussions of this stuff beforehand, which never fucking happens in this series. Never. Like, it's all Christian's decision. Anna has no say in it. And so that's where it becomes unhealthy. That's where it becomes not fucking okay. Like, yeah, sure, absolutely. Use orgasm denial as a punishment within the context of consent, discussion. That's like setting up rules and boundaries and like, just like all this shit. Orgasm denial is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be consensual, not like an actual literal punishment for her for standing up for herself, which is basically what's happening right now. Yeah. Oh my god. This is like one of the worst things I've ever read in a sex scene. Okay, so she's up on the piano. He was like teasing her and eating her out, and now he's on top of her, they're gonna fuck. And she goes, I realize he's naked. When did he take off his clothes? I'm sorry, like, I don't care how like strung out and like worked up you are. You're gonna notice if he like pauses long enough to take off all his fucking clothes. Like, that's just, like, unless you literally black out for a few minutes, like, that's not how... I just... I'm sorry, but if you're having sex with someone and they stop and get naked, you're gonna know about it. How do you justify writing that? Why? Why am I doing this to myself? You know what I really should do is go back through this series and count how many times she says, oh my, in the narrative. Like every other paragraph, I swear to God. It's so annoying. So this is kind of a backstory heavy chapter. Because Anna is kind of realizing that she's contemplating moving in with this guy that she hardly knows anything about. She doesn't know if he prefers coffee or tea. She doesn't know shit about him, which, red flags, maybe you shouldn't be moving in with him. But anyway, so she's trying to like get to know him better, and he doesn't like communicating in general. but he doesn't like talking about himself and talking about his past, so he's like trying to be all flirty and suggestive and change the subject to sex, which is not a great strategy. Like, I understand he's had a hard life, he doesn't want to talk about it, that's fine, but you can't avoid talking about the hard subjects forever if you want to keep your relationship going. A good, strong, long-term relationship requires trust and communication and letting the other person in, letting the other person get to know you. So if you're not ready to have that particular conversation right now, tell them that. But make sure you get to it eventually, because if you're keeping yourself locked up and aloof and not talking to the other person, not letting them into your life fully, that relationship is not gonna work. I don't know if you can hear my cat purring right now, but he's cuddling with me. Yeah, so I also feel like it's at least a trope that like distracting someone from a hard conversation with sex is kind of a common thing. But again, it's one of those common tropes that is not healthy. That's just avoiding your problems, and that's only going to make them worse to deal with later. You know, open, honest communication in a relationship is pretty much always the best strategy. Can I have my pens back? My cat is sitting on my highlighters. Jack, Anna's boss, tried to come on to her last chapter, found out she was taken. Now he's being really rude to her because he, I guess, felt entitled to her, felt like he deserved to be able to take her out or whatever. And it just seems like this series is incapable of including a male character that is not an entitled dickbag. And also, it makes it worse that Jack is Anna's boss and is in a position of power over her, and so is in a position to be rude to her and take it out on her without her being able to really fight back. And then he says, "Sorry, Anna, I didn't mean to bark at you, honey." Now we've got her boss calling his employee by pet names. That's not okay. That is never okay. Honestly, nobody should ever really call anybody by a pet name without their consent first. So, turns out Jack's doing that thing where not only is he being snarky and annoyed at his rejection, he is not taking no for an answer. He's still trying to ask Anna out on a date, even after he knows she is taken, which I know is a thing that happens because I have had it happen to my friends. I have had it happen to people around me. Saying no should be enough to get a guy to back off from trying to ask us out. Oftentimes, it's not. Most of the time, saying we're already taken is a pretty safe bet. But in some cases, as in this case, it's still not enough. They still feel like they're so entitled to us that they're gonna keep trying. So, fellas, learn to take no for an answer. If you ask a girl out, great, good for you, you took a risk. If she says no, back the fuck off. Don't keep trying to ask her. Certainly don't keep trying after she says she has a boyfriend, because like, come on, just leave her alone, let her live her life. You tried, you got rejected, it happens, get over it. Okay, another thing that really bothers me about the way this book is written is a lot of times there will be two different subjects in one paragraph. See, the thing about paragraphs, I'm sure you all know, we all learned this in like, what, elementary school? A paragraph break happens when you change the subject, when you're moving on to the next thing. A lot of times, E.L. James does not do that. Koshek, stop eating my freaking highlighter. You're gonna poison yourself. E.L. James does not do that. She'll like jump subjects once, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 fucking times in the same paragraph. And first of all, it's distracting and annoying and makes the narrative sound like scattered and disjointed. And second of all, how did this get past a semi-competent editor? I don't get it. Okay. Done with another chapter. Anna is back in her apartment for the first time in like a week or something. Ethan is back. I don't remember who Ethan is, but he's staying at her apartment, I guess. So she's just stepped into her apartment, and Layla, Christian's violent ex, is there waiting for her. So that's where we're gonna pick up in the next chapter. Let's see what happens. I'd say I'm looking forward to it, but I'm really not. So anyway, my camera's battery is low. My brother is home and he wants to turn on the TV, so I should wrap this up. Thanks for watching. Thanks for laughing along with me in the ridiculousness that is this series. I will see you next time. And yeah, until then, don't put up with shitty men. That's my advice for the day. Goodbye. That just smacks of like this. Oh my god, I can't talk today. I can't, you guys. I cannot string words together to form a sentence right now. What is wrong with me? Yeah, stop. Oh my god. Stop it. Stop.